Okay, well, we're going to get started with the drywall mud. And as we do, I wanted to show you a couple pieces of things that I've made in the past with using these techniques because they are really fun. This is one. These are textures that I had put on after the stencil was on the page and going on top of a stencil using the design of the drywall mud on there. Same with others of these. You can do many different things. This one you can see how the things stand out on there. You can make edges. This is another with numbers, and a lot of it's just painting over them when they're finished. This design was just a design that's raised on top of their inked, and they're very, very simple and easy to do. So I'm going to go pretty quick on these because it's really quite simple. So we're going to start with one. I'm going to start with one of these here. It is a little messy sometimes, but that's okay. My best tool that I love using are old credit cards or those little plastic sample cards you get in the mail, the junk mail. So start opening your junk mail and save those because they make great tools for painting and spreading out good things. So we're going to start this first one, and the simplest one is just taking some of your drywall mud, and it's okay to use too much, it could scrape off. And the good thing on these is if you do something and you don't like it, then you just spread some more on it and you do it again. It's really not a big deal. So I spread it on fairly thick, and you can do that, and it doesn't matter how many times you do this. And I've got ink on the back of my card here, see, but it doesn't matter because I'll just clean it off later. And to clean it up, just wipe it on your paper that you're using, and that's fine. And then anything that you find that you want to make designs in it with, this was one of these comb things that comes in hair dye. You can make designs in these, you can scratch through them. That in itself is going to make a really cool stripe design when it's dry. And that's done. It's just ready to sit and dry for a moment. You can do the same thing, and another thing I really like to do is spread some of that on there, and then while it's on nice and wet and thick, take some of your rubber stamps and just stamp into it. I don't know, I'm going to wipe it off this time, but you know, I like using word stamps, so just, you don't have to ink anything, you don't have to do anything, it just makes a nice impression in there. You can use that, you can use designs. Whatever design you use on your stamp, it's going to end up drawing like that into the drywall mud, and it's really going to be pretty once it pops out with the paint later, and you'll get the opportunity to see that. I'm not sure if this is going to work. I also have a face here, and sometimes the more fine stamps don't work as well, but I'm going to give it a try just to see what happens today. So we'll kind of learn that one together. That doesn't look like it's going to be too good, but we'll see. And of course, I am going to want to clean those rubber stamps off under the water fairly soon after I'm done. So the next thing we're going to do is just do some, use our stencils and make some designs through. We take I'm hoping this is showing up also. We'll just take a regular batch again. Whatever stencil you're going to use, this one is is alphabets. So I'm hoping you can see the alphabets there. And I like just laying it out. You can lay it in any direction you want. It doesn't have to be straight, but just lay it down. Take a little bit of the drywall mud and just scrape it through wherever. And you're going to make a little mess on your stencil. That's okay. And then just lift it up. That I'm sure you can see. And that is all raised. And as much as you might see it right now that it looks kind of like a stamp or something, once we put paint on that later, that is going to look really, really cool. So that's one way of doing it. Another way, using your stencils in the same manner, is to take something that is already colored, and this is another technique we're going to learn this week. This is using inks on a page, and I'm going to scrape out a little clean spot to work on here. Any page that's already designed, and this is really fun for using in books because it's going to be something solid that's going to be on top of a printed page if you're keeping the print. But anything that you have, just lay your stencil over again. Same idea. Just scrape through your stencil. I'm going to move it this time. So it's going to, you know, give that design to wherever you put it. It's just going to go right over there. And because this is already, oh, I'm going to mess that one up. Because this one's already got color on it, everything pops. And it's really cool. And when this is dry, we can leave it like this, or we can take a stamp pad and go over it, and it will change the color of that drywall mud. Okay, our last one on this that I found by accident. I shouldn't say the last one. I guess we'll do a couple more. Another one that I did that I kind of found by accident was I put my drywall mud on. And accidentally, I wanted to use a stencil, but I accidentally put the drywall mud on first. So I had put it on. This was my first time doing this because it's like, oh, forgot to put the stencil down. So after I did it, I put the stencil down afterwards. And then I just pressed it in, so you can press the stencil down. And what actually it's going to do is when I pull it off, it leaves this really interesting design because it's pulling the drywall mud up off the page. So it actually gives it this very interesting texture. I'm not so sure that works so great. And it's not my favorite technique, but it is one. And there is a texture in there, really wild texture, but I can still see the flowers that were in that design also. So it turned that stencil from cutesy flowers into something a bit more artistic. So I like that one. I also just really love using sequin waste. I like the polka dot effect of the sequin waste on there. So this is the sequin waste, and just scratching through that wherever on a page. And you know, I love it. It's like a bubble effect to me. And I like using this effect on anything that has to do with water, the ocean. And it looks really bad now with those colors because my sequin waste also had ink on it. But again, once it's all dry, we're going to be painting on these or coloring on them, and it's going to get rid of a lot of that different coloring or miscoloring. So that's okay. We'll go from there. So far this is our start. And at this point we need to let them dry. I make sure they're really dry when you go to do the next step. So my suggestion is do these at night, and then just leave them and work on them the next day, and you'll probably end up with hopefully pages and pages of things that are drying because it's so much fun when you get started. But that's okay, because then you have a lot to work on later. So I'll be back in a moment when these are dry and we will continue.